This Ag Business Update brought to you by American Implement, indebted to the past, committed to the future. In a moment, Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law.
Wolfter Construction and Irrigation has been around a long time, and a lot of folks have trusted them to design, build, and service all sizes of commercial and on-farm storage for grain and equipment. Wolfter is also known for their outstanding irrigation division, where they stock a complete selection of nozzles, regulators, drops, gear drives, electrical, and structure components. Looking for an electric motor? Wolfter has a large selection in single and three-phase. Next time, reach out to the pros who have decades of experience at taking care of business the right way. Wolfter Construction and Irrigation. When you've had a best friend for over 50 years, you develop a trust. And the Scott Co-op has been a trusted rural friend since 1957. A co-op keeps money in the area, doing business for and with their members. And that helps keep their hometown thriving with keeping money in the community. Scott Co-op is not just an elevator. It's the rural way of doing business. So, when you see an elevator, remember your friends at Scott Co-op.
Time once again for our monthly conversation with Dr. Roger McEowen, Ag and Tax Law Specialist at the Washburn School of Law. Hi, Dr. McEowen.
Good to be with you, Ken.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about a case that involves Northwest Kansas situation in the Kansas Supreme Court. Property rights issue, ag nuisance. We're going to kind of get into that. There was a ruling that came out recently that the farmer said, hey, I'm not trespassing. Court said, well, yes. And they went through this whole system. So give us a background on this case and how we got to the state Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's a big case, Ken. I think it's one of the most egregious ag nuisance cases I've ever seen in Kansas history that has gone to the appellate level and has reached the Kansas Supreme Court. But what happened here was that the defendant owned multiple farming operations, including a large-scale confinement hog operation, and he installed about 2 miles of pipeline in the road ditch right-of-way next to a public road to transport liquefied hog waste to spread on his crop fields down the road from the confinement animal facility. He didn't get the adjacent landowner's permission, and he didn't follow the applicable county permitting process and ignored the commissioners requesting the sheriff, who went out and told him, don't do this. He ignored all of that. And the liquefied hog manure, then he sprayed from a pivot irrigation system that had an end gun on it within 200 feet of a home of one of the plaintiffs. And those plaintiffs, who are also farmers, sued him for trespass and nuisance. And as I said, the spray from that pivot came real close to that house. And he lost at the trial court level and was hit with a total judgment just shy of $200,000. And the appellate court affirmed that. And he sought then review by the Kansas Supreme Court.
So the Kansas Supreme Court then took it up. And then we got this ruling. So what all contributed to the way the Kansas Supreme Court ruled in?
Well, the Kansas Supreme Court affirmed on all points. The trial court and the appellate court said both those courts got it right on every point. He claimed he was protected from the nuisance lawsuit by the Kansas right to farm law. But you have to be in compliance with state and federal laws to get the protection of the right to farm statute. And he wasn't. He had committed a trespass. The lower courts found that he was trespassing when he appropriated his neighbor's ditch rights by using that to put in a pipeline for his private purpose. Now, and that's a key point, Ken. In Kansas, landowners that own adjacent to a public road own the ditch, and they own the road subsurface, and it's subject to the public's easement for transportation over that road. And so the ditches, they can be used for a public purpose, such as to put in a cable, put in some type of utility line, telephone line, those types of things. But his use was entirely private, and it was personal to him. So he was trespassing, and that eliminated the right for him to use, it eliminated him from using the right to farm law as a defense, because he was not in compliance with Kansas law, and the common law of trespass was deemed to be part of Kansas law.
So let's move forward. What does this mean for the rest of Kansas agriculture, for farmers that, we know we have pretty strong right to farm laws in Kansas, property rights issue? I mean, where does this all kind of land then?
Well, every state has its own right to farm law. Kansas has its own statutory protection for farmers. And this points out that it's important to know the details of your particular state statute. You want to be in total compliance with what the law requires to be able to use it as a defense to a nuisance action. And conformity with state and federal laws is often a prerequisite to be able to use the statute. And that's what the missing link was for him in this situation.
We're talking with Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law. We'll take a quick break. We have more to discuss with him. We'll do that in just a moment.
S&S Trailer Sales, with 2 locations in Ness City, Kansas, is where everybody goes to buy or rent trailers. They feature the all-new, all-aluminum Mauer grain trailer with all of the electric options, the easy-to-load detached trailers, and a huge stock of header trailers. At the west location, you'll find bumper pulls, goosenecks, and oilfield specialty trailers, along with flat and utility beds for pickups. S&S Trailer Sales in Ness City and on the web, but remember, you do have to spell out the and.
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception: keeping electricity affordable.
Wheatland Electric, delivering energy for life, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
Our guest is Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law. Our monthly conversation with him of Ag in the Courtroom. Dr. McEowen, up next, getting sued in another state. Now, some of us that live around the border is one thing, but in this world of basically borders that you can do business anywhere in the blink of an eye. Talk about that.
Well, we can do that indeed, Ken, online, participate in auctions, buy machinery, buy livestock. The question is, if something goes wrong with the contract I've entered into, what state law governs? And if it's a state law that is a long ways away from me, and we end up in a legal dispute, can I get hauled into court, say out in California or Oregon or Massachusetts, somewhere a long ways from Kansas, and I have to go defend myself in that state court? I have to bundle up my attorneys and send them there, and I have to travel there. It can be extraordinarily expensive to do that. Well, back in the 1940s, the U.S. Supreme Court issued an opinion on this, and the question is whether that foreign jurisdiction has personal jurisdiction over you. And they established what's known as a minimum contacts test. And basically what that means is if you have sufficient contacts with that other jurisdiction, you can get sued there. And there was a recent case on this involving a farmer in Michigan who bought seed from an elevator in Indiana, and he was about 20 miles away from that elevator. It's just a little bit over the state line. And this was the 3rd time he had done it. Well, when the seed was ready for him to pick up, he didn't pay for it. And so the elevator sued him in the Indiana state courts, and he claimed, well, I'm not subject to getting sued in Indiana. I live in Michigan. My farming operation's in Michigan. And the court said, no. This wasn't the first time you've done business in Indiana, and this was a contract you entered into in Indiana. You availed yourself of the benefits of doing business in Indiana, and to defeat his due process claim, they said, your farm's only 20 miles away from the elevator. It's not inconvenient for you. So there's a whole bunch of factors the courts go through. The lesson here is be aware that you possibly could get hauled into court in a different state if you do enough business there.
Yeah, again, back to that buyer beware. So,
yeah.
All right, as we kind of wrap up, put all this thing together, this time of the year with harvest getting about ready to get started, folks maybe say, this might be the last one. Maybe I want to retire. Maybe I'm getting to that age where, take Social Security and get some plans in place. There's some things that probably farmers need to be aware of instead of just not waking up one morning and saying, you know what, today's the day.
Yeah, a lot of farmers don't retire. They just die. But I often get asked the question, well, when should I start drawing Social Security benefits? Well, the answer to that is tell me when you're going to die, and then I'll tell you when you should start drawing your Social Security benefits to maximize the amount you can receive. Well, we don't know. This is not a precise science because we can't predict our deaths with any type of accuracy. But there are a couple of basic principles here. And one is once you reach full retirement age, that's kind of a plateau. And then full retirement age is between ages 66 and 67. And then age 70, and you kind of maximize your benefits once you reach full retirement age, but then you can get another bump at age 70, and there's some spousal benefits that come into play too. And that's a basic point there. Another point is that if you want to continue to work after you've started to receive your Social Security benefits, then there's a potential that those benefits can be reduced if you start withdrawing too early. For example, in 2024, if you haven't reached full retirement age yet and you earn more than $22,320, your benefits get reduced $1 for every $2 you go above that limit. Now, during the year in which you reach full retirement age, the earnings limit goes up to $59,520 this year. And you have $1 that you lose in your benefits for every $3 that you go over that limit. And then once you hit full retirement age, the limit on earnings drops off. That's why you see a lot of older people that'll be working in a retail store or something. They're drawing Social Security and they're not reducing their benefits because they're older. So when should you start drawing benefits? Again, Ken, I'd say it depends. And I would also say draw them. This is one strategy, and this isn't for everybody, but if you want to draw them as soon as you're eligible to take them out, say at age 62, yeah, you won't get as much. But if you are disciplined enough to take every penny that you would draw and invest it, you'll beat out the increase that you could ever receive in Social Security. But you got to be disciplined to do that.
Anything quickly on retirement planning that need to be aware of?
Well, in terms of retirement planning and estate planning, avoid the obvious mistakes, and we see some of this that's relevant with respect to farming operations. And I'd say one of the big ones of those in a farming operation is if I have heirs that are both on-farm and off-farm heirs, yeah, a lot of times parents are going to want to treat their kids. They want to be fair, but that doesn't mean that we divide up all of the assets and give each child an equal portion of all of the assets. In fact, that can cause more problems than it would solve. And that's a big one right there. And watching your title ownership on property, make sure that that is consistent with your overall estate planning goals. And that includes not just your jointly held real estate and your home. That includes IRAs, life insurance policies, any document that has a beneficiary designation. Make sure all of those designations line up with your overall estate plan. Those are a couple of the big ones. We could go on and talk about that for quite some time, but those are two to take a look at. And then once you have a plan in place, revisit it periodically to make sure it's up to date.
And you can find out more on your blog about this topic and others, right?
Right, and that's washburnlaw.edu/WALTR, and also those run on Ag Manager through the Department of K-State, or Department of Ag Econ at K-State.
All right, Dr. McEowen, as always, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. He's an ag and tax law specialist, joins us monthly here for the update of agriculture in the court system. We'll take a break, back with more in just a moment. Stay with us.
Would you like to see something done about high gas prices and low unemployment? Western Plains Energy in Campus, Kansas is doing something about it. They're a proud part of Growth Energy, America's ethanol supporters, and they employ 38 people and will be adding more following the expansion. Ethanol fuel not only reduces the cost of regular gasoline, it's good for the environment and keeps money right here in the United States while supporting local rural jobs. Western Plains Energy, doing something for the future.
KBUF Radio has agriculture information for you weekdays beginning at 6 with Agriculture Today. Then it's the KBUF Morning Show with interviews, information, and all kinds of things to help you make good decisions on the farm and ranch. You can follow along on our social media pages, or you can listen to KBUF or any Western Kansas broadcast station online, westernkansasnews.com. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching.